Okay, we're back with some new lighting choices, courtesy of my lady. She helped us with this look.
We noticed a little bit of a glare up in Einstein's eyes there.
Honestly, we have no idea what to do with this lighting game, so we're just trying new things. Hopefully, something looks better than before. I don't know. Give us some feedback. Let us know. Kyle, obviously we have no NFL to talk about today. But Kyle's has kids. His kids are always causing commotion.
I have kids and I have coworkers.
Which are basically... any updates this week?
So, starting off, we'll go with my youngest, Noah. She's turning 6 months in about 2 weeks. And at 6 months with Brooklyn, we got our ears pierced, so we're going to do the same thing with Noah. And I was telling this guy, because it's pretty normal at 6 months you do it, because they don't play with it then. They don't understand what it is. You wait a little bit longer, they're going to start fucking with it, it gets infected. Don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
So get done early. So this guy, I was talking to him, and he's basically saying, like, oh, that's kind of, like, what if they grow up and they decide they don't want it, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, then they take it out. It's a hole in their ear. They don't have to re-put a new hole in to get it out. They just pull it out and adios. It's done.
Dumb fucking question.
But the part that really got me, and I had that heart pumping thing again, was the fact that this man's talked to me before about if he ever has a boy, he wants to get him circumcised because it looks better. He doesn't want to let his kid go out there and have an ugly dick.
And I'm like, better.
You talk about what you can't take back. Like you're just gonna take off the end because it might look better?
Go. Back that up. Let's back this up. One second.
Yes.
It looks better? Like, I'm assuming he's circumcised?
I didn't ask, but I'm like...
Okay, so here's where that statement takes my brain. Either A, he's circumcised, in which case he's like, you and your fucking toque-looking penis. How dare you come next to me?
You got that beanie down there.
Right? It was a weird-ass dick you have. What
that
the hell?
turtleneck at the end of your worm.
Right? He's like, my shit looks great. Or he's like, I watch a lot of porn and I can't stop staring at the man's penis and how much better his is than mine. What?
Honestly. And pull that shit back. Now it's circumcised.
Like, you get to the point that it's irrelevant.
It's done. It's gone. And I'm like, but if you're going to compare what you can't take back, you can't, if you cut that shit off, you can't just sew it back on and call it a day.
You know, I'm not going to criticize his political beliefs towards my own. Personally, don't cut the kid's dick. Leave the dick alone. Dick didn't do anything to you. Leave it alone. That's bullshit. But I'm going to leave my political beliefs out of it and say he's weird.
Yeah, you can't make that comparison.
Your boy he's trying to put his dick up against other dicks. So like, don't do it. This is a weird ass conversation we're having. Yeah, welcome to the podcast. We're starting it off hot.
The girls are already gone. That was very fast. I think that's a record. That's a record.
We talk about dick in the first 2 minutes. What are we running here?
Oh man, and then fucking the hardest part about being a parent is also being a fucking idiot. So your wife constantly has to, oh no, we can't do that. You gotta be nicer. You gotta be more patient. Like, don't get so mad at the kids in front of the kids. So it's like I'm sitting there getting scolded. And I'm trying to tell Brooklyn what to do. She's gonna look at me like, who the fuck are you? Mom's in charge. Like, you don't know what you're doing.
I know what she does in front of the kids. Well, it's parenting you and the kids at the same time.
It's not on purpose.
Way to go,
like,
Britt.
most of the time, she's just dealing with kids at all times. So that's kind of like, she knows, okay, we gotta talk this way. We gotta do that. But then when there's an adult around, she doesn't realize that she's still going on. And I was trying to tell her, like, hey, we gotta calm this shit down. Let me do my thing. Let me fuck up. But make it look like I'm in charge still. Like, let me have that appearance for a minute. Like, I know she's not gonna believe it once she can, like, really walk, talk, do everything. She's gonna know I don't do shit. I just bring in the money. That's it. But, like, let me have this time. And so you were talking about football. You were talking with, your little, nephew.
Okay.
Taking over the team.
So
he does.
We're going to leave names out of this because You know we're so political.
I don't.
Anyways, okay, so here's the thing. We got players on the team. And by players, I mean player. We got this guy, and he's, super toxic. And so what I mean by toxic, we're, coach is giving instruction, and he's just like, always got something to say about it. He's always got some joke or some trying to talk back to the coach or call out the coach for something, or he's always got something to say. And then he was trying to be helpful and yell something at the team, and the coach told him chill, we got it. And then he gets all pissed off and throws a hissy fit because he got told to stop. And he's like, you hear him after, between the drill, he's like, well, if I didn't say anything, he would have been pissed about this.
Well, yeah, he's the best player on the team. So if you're the best player, you can't get talked to like that by coach. You're not gonna be a little bitch.
He didn't get the starting spot that he wanted, so he's got something to say about that.
See, that's the point we got to start talking about. If you're not good enough to get the starting spot, that means you can't talk. You're out. You're out of any discussion. Everybody talks to you, and you have to accept whatever happens because you're a backup.
Now, see,
you're not a starter.
Here's the thing, though. I'm not going to sit here and say that he isn't good enough, or he is, or maybe he's even better. I don't know that. But to understand the character that we're talking about, he was then subbed into this position, to which most of us would think, oh, hey, this is my chance to show coach that I'm the better choice. And if I'm ever going to get this spot that I want, I need to start showing him this is the spot I should play by being better. What does he do? You already got your safety. No, I'm not going to go in. What?
I'm going to stay on the bench?
And then he's just...
This guy.
And then, so after practice is over, the one of the coaches, he's addressing the team, and he's like, because earlier, he was calling, he told him, chill, don't worry about it, because he was, yelling at the team. He told the players, just chill, I got this. So after the thing, he's, just kind of gave a general announcement, didn't say to any person, didn't, point at him or anything. He was just like, you do your job, let us do our job. We've been coaching for years. If somebody's not in the right spot, that's what we do. We'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about that. And all you hear after is, ha! Okay. Shut the fuck up. Who is this
so
guy?
Unnecessary.
Right? What are you doing? And, you're at a point where, at some point in the practice, your own teammates are telling you, dude, just shut up and pay attention. Can you just do what you're told?
This is all during practice?
All during practice. Even his teammates are, can you just shut up and listen?
Oh.
And he can't even do this in a practice. And I'm like, can we just cut this guy? I don't need him.
Yeah, special teams.
I don't even care. Here's the thing. I've never seen him play. I've been told he's good. Cool. The guy that's playing safety is pretty good, too. He's going to college next year to play ball.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
This guy's not.
You can't talk once a scholarship walks in, takes your spot. You kind of accept it for a minute.
I don't even... Your spot. And the thing, I'm not going to sit here and say he sucks at football because, I don't know, maybe he is good at football, but the attitude is so embarrassingly toxic. I'm just this guy... And the thing is, the way he carries himself, the way he talks, rolls in with fucking hickeys on his neck he's nice, even though he's still high school. No one's nice in high school. I don't know what you're flexing on everybody.
Nice.
You look like the team drug dealer already. I don't
really helping out your case here.
You don't present yourself well. You don't talk to people with respect. You think you're funny, but you're kind of just an asshole. You disrespect your coaches and all the authority around you. You disrespect your teammates who are supposed to have your back, but it's really hard because you're not treating them with respect by participating in practice properly. Yeah. You're not giving your best, which is also disrespectful to your teammates. Why does anybody want you here? I don't care how good you are. Get the fuck out of here. Toxic players...
Not necessary.
It doesn't matter how good they are. You don't need them. I don't know. It gives me PTSD because when I was in college... There was a guy who had he had the size, athletic ability, and frame to potentially, he could have made the NFL. You look at NFL guys, and he could stack up physically at the age group we're at. But he is too good for the gym. He doesn't like to go to practice. When he is at practice, doesn't like to participate, likes to chill. Doesn't really give a shit about anything. Always late, sleep in meetings, on his phone, doesn't listen. He just wants to do what he does. And the coaches thought he was so good, they strung him along trying to get this guy in gear to, he still could have made the CFL if he turned it on even for a year and changed his habits for that last year. He still could have made the CFL. But he just didn't give a shit. He was just like, no, I'm fine. Like, I'm going to make it.
We both know a hometown guy. That was a lot like that on a couple basketball teams.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. It's so tough, especially as someone that wasn't that big and I had to work hard and I'm like losing.
We're speaking the same language. It's
losing playing time to somebody that doesn't give a shit, and like
that's the hardest part, especially. Well, for us now becoming coaches and seeing it from our side, I don't understand what coaches used to see or what older coaches see when they say, oh, well, he's got a lot of talent, blah, blah, blah. It's like, but you can see those three guys that are doing better than that have less. Like, why are you rewarding this attitude? Like, if you just humble him as a coach, that's your job. You humble him, you get his attitude better. Now you take that supreme talent, that physical ability, and actually add in a guy that has some drive. Now you've done your job as a coach. Putting in a guy that's really good and letting him do whatever he wants, he's never going to get great. He's just going to be good. That's it. So it's hard to watch that.
Yeah.
But, caveat, you also have the luxury of being at a school where there's options of cutting people. I coach at 80 Rundle. If we have 2 basketball players that know how to dribble with both the right and left hand, we have a good team.
I mean, I don't know how to dribble with my left hand, so if they're doing that, they're pretty good.
But what I'm saying is, it is nice that you have the option of that. This guy he's an athlete, but I can cut him. If I have a guy that can run fast, he might miss every layup, but at least he's fast. That's the tough part with the inner city schools. Don't have my team anymore.
This particular team, I actually don't necessarily have the ability to cut him because this is the city team, not the high school teams.
So two high schools.
So it's 2 high schools coming together, and there's one team starting safety and the other team starting safety. Not both guys can't have the job.
Yeah,
right? I don't know. I don't know this kid very well. All I know is he has just embarrassed himself significantly as far as first impressions go. And when you are trying to get to the next level, people are not just looking at your athletic ability. They're looking at more intangible things like, what kind of person are you? Are you going to be someone that sticks around? Because going through college, I can tell you I have firsthand experience where guys were nice in high school. I had a lot of rookie linebackers come in when I was in college that were nice in high school. They were ballers. But they come to university, and all the things that you need to do to be successful, they can't do that because they're only worried about looking big and being a starter. That was on their mind. I'm nice and I look good. That was their priority. And all the little things, the film review, the playbook study, knowing your responsibilities, all those extra details, it's beyond them.
Yeah, out the window.
Or I'm not even going to go out and say that they're stupid. It's just they didn't put in enough work to be good at those things.
They're not stupid. They just lack intelligence. They just don't have the brain capacity to get there.
No, my university coach, he was kind of savage. One of the things that he taught was what he called shame-based learning, which...
Like I said, bullying sometimes works. Look at every single sport there's ever been. No team's ever had a coach that's like, oh, it was a nice try.
So, shame-based learning, as this sounds, you ask a question. If it's stupid or if you're wrong, he'll embarrass you.
Makes sense.
If you're doing something wrong, he'll make fun of you. He'll call you out in front of everybody.
Fair.
He'll make you want to be better. Or... you'll implode internally because your mental health is not holding up, and the situation you're in is not helping you.
Sounds like a personal problem.
Anyways, there was one time where there was this one guy. He wasn't even a bad guy. I didn't mind him. He was a decent teammate as far as, like, you know, he looked like he was doing everything right. But when it came to being on the field, man, he just didn't know what the fuck he was doing. Like, he always fucked up his responsibilities. He was, like, never where he needed to be. He was missing tackles, which, like, come on. If you're going to, like, do all the other things wrong, if the ball's in your face, make the play.
Yeah.
But you couldn't even do that sometimes. It was thoroughly embarrassing to watch him go out there. And the coaches had put, you know, a lot of effort into him. They've given him so much patience, so much time to grow, and it just wasn't happening. And it got to the point where, like, he's still a rookie. Like, this is his first year. The coach is in his face saying, "You're stealing." Like, I'll say it calmly because there's no reason to yell right now.
Yeah.
But he's yelling in this kid's face, "You're stealing from the goddamn program. You're wasting my fucking time. You're wasting the school's resources. You're wasting their fucking time. Why the fuck are you here?" He's just going in on him. And this kid's, like, trying not to cry as the coach is just yelling in his face with all of this. And then, like, on one side, you're like, oh, fuck. That's why I don't mess up. And on the other side, you're like, coach got a point, though.
See, my problem is that I'm too big of a smartass. So I had a similar situation when we were in the valleys. Valleys, and we won out the cities. We did everything. We get to the next level, and we've got a couple. This is grade 9. We had a couple grade 8s on the team, and they're playing at this time, and we're like, this is kind of fucked. We should not have grade 8s. It should be just the top guys playing. But we're getting shit kicked thoroughly, and our coach is just laying into us, screaming. And the whistle goes, and he says, "Oh, and now, like, we gotta try and get it." And I'm like, I definitely feel like playing hard now. And I said something stupid like that to him, and he's my cousin's stepfather. So, like, after the game, like, we were on the ride home, and he's like, it was so annoying because it was so funny. I had to pretend, like, I had to feel like I was gonna laugh so hard. I couldn't even. He said he couldn't talk. He couldn't talk anymore.
He had to stop
because he's like, it was a perfect scenario for it. But, like, I thought I was doing the right thing by yelling at you guys. I'm like, you were. But you were yelling at all of us, not the fucking guys that were fucking up. Like, just
that's funny.
Go straight up on the guy.
Let them know.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
But yeah, I've had my fair share of toxic moments. But.
Yeah, I think the thing too is, like, when you think about, like, going back to the whole, like, next level thing. I recently had a buddy of mine that I played with in college. He reached out. He sent me this clip he found on YouTube. Now, this clip is one of our former teammates. I think he played, like, 2 years with us at the beginning. And the clip is so, like, we played together for 2 years. He left. He bounced from, like, school to school. He went to, like, JUCOs in the States. He played around. I can't remember how many teams he played for, but he's played at a couple different locations. And so the video is him after all of that. We've graduated, him trying to go to the CFL draft. And so in the CFL draft, they had kind of like an interview process where he comes in. Yeah. There's a bunch of scouts there, some coaches, and they just want to talk to him, ask him about his goals, what he does best, just figure out where his mind's at. And so one of the questions the guys asked, because they asked him a couple questions, and you could tell by the way he was answering, he thought he was, like, smart and answering. I'm just like, he kind of just sounds like an idiot. And you can tell when you're talking to an idiot. Yeah. So, like, when you're talking to this guy, it's like, these guys are going to be investing hundreds of thousands of dollars into some of these players, and in a bigger scale, if you're talking NFL, they're investing millions. Yeah. Do you think they're going to put their millions and, their money into somebody that's fucking stupid and won't make it? No. There is such a critical evaluation of you, not only as a player, but as a person. What's your mental like? Can you handle the stress when you are getting pushed to the edge? Can you hold up? Or are you mentally going to fall apart and do something you're not supposed to do? Those are things that they ask. Well, they don't necessarily ask, but they're trying to find out. Yeah. Because they want to know if they're picking you, that you're there for a long time, because they want a franchise
you're there
player.
Until they decide you're not.
Right? Like, they want to get that franchise player. They want a player that's going to be on the team. And so, like, one of the questions they asked this guy, he's like, no, I'm not going to, I'm not saying this is you, but like, I see a player here. I see, he's played for like 4 different teams. Makes me think he has commitment issues. Do you have commitment issues? And the player's like, oh, well, no, I don't think that's what that means. And obviously he's going to try and say, no, I don't have commitment issues. That sounds bad. Like, why would you say you have commitment issues? Of course not. You're like, no. He tries to, like, give some shitty answer about why he's like, oh, I'm committed to the gym. Yeah, you're big, but like, dumbass fucking answer.
I'm committed to the gym.
Yeah, he's like, no, look at me, I'm in the gym. I'm committed to the...
That was
a dumb answer is that?
Yeah, a guy came through at work a couple of years back in his interview. He was a big guy, but the guy I was working under at the time, he had some stupid deadlift record for Chilliwack. But this guy comes in and he's like, "Hi, how are you?" Blah blah blah, and he's like, "How much you bench?" To my boss, and he's like, "Wait, what? You're asking me this on your interview?" And he's like, "Yeah, how much you bench?" "I can bench 350." And he's like, "I can't." Like, why are you bringing this up? Like, what kind of? How do you start off an interview with this?
I love it.
You're probably not getting this job.
I love it.
But that's what a lot of like you said, dumb people, not even dumb, just they don't realize that what they love isn't what everybody else like thinks of as the end goal. So somebody looks at that and he's like, if going to the gym is their goal and that's what they want to be, yeah, looking at it, oh man, that's a smart thing to say. But if you're looking at it as like, oh, you're trying to go to a job, you want to appease people, you want to let them know like you're a nice guy, you want to work with people, you don't immediately go at the boss and try and say you're the big dick in the house. Like, it was the crazy thing, but it just reminded me of that situation.
Yeah, and the thing too is like going back to like the team that I'm coaching for. Now you have like the high school guys. And then after high school, there's like 2 routes. There's the junior level where you're playing with guys that don't go to school, but they're obviously like adults now.
Yeah.
And then you have college where it's college ball. The junior team. It's not really much of it's not hard to make this team. And I know that because when I went to high school, most of my teammates went to college. The guys that we call play runners played for this team. The guys that were play runners and backups were able to just make this team. And by play runner, if you don't understand the terminology, there'll be like, it's usually like a receiver that is like not even a second team, like a third team guy, and he never gets the ball. He doesn't really do anything. The coach will tell him to play. He'll run it to the quarterback will give the call, and then on the next play, another play runner will come in, and just those guys will tag out every play as they give the quarterback the call instead of giving signals.
Basically, the guy on the kid on tennis that runs across, grabs the ball. If it goes to the other side, the other lady goes and grabs it, and he goes back to the corner.
Yeah.
That's pretty much play runner.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same idea. They never get the ball. The play never goes towards them, and they're usually on the near side by the coach, so they can keep running back and forth.
Yeah. And the following year, they are starting on this team.
But like those players on my high school team played on that team for like 4 years.
Yeah.
So making that team, whatever. Especially like in this area, whatever.
I remember going and watching a couple of years back when they got their first win in like 4 years, and it was going crazy. They were giving out corn to everybody. Like fucking
redneck town.
Yeah, we really show out.
You know what the thing is I know some of the coaching staff there. Like, I think the defensive coordinator was actually a guy that I played high school with, and he's very smart. I have so much respect for him. And I know that they're looking for ballers. Like, they're a serious team.
Yeah.
And they have probably like the best coaching staff they've had in a decade.
Yeah.
But just because you make a team, it doesn't mean you're nice when you're making a team like that.
Yeah.
Because as much as those guys are putting in work, they're still not going to turn away talent. They're not going to see this kid who's like kind of a dickhead, but he's good. They're not going to turn him away. They're going to give him a chance.
They're going for anybody they can.
The thing with college teams is if you're going to be that problematic person and make the team, you better be exceptional.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford to waste resources on this kid that's already acting like an entitled jackass before he's earned anything.
Yeah, they're looking at 100 different kids that look the exact same. So if you want to be an ass, on to the next. Now we're at 99.
So like, if you think about it logically, you've got two kids that play the same position. One of them is going to stay local and go to this junior team. The other kid has been validated by coaches across the country as somebody that they want on their team and given scholarship money to go to a university and play for one of these teams. Who do you think is going to be the defensive captain here? Who do you think is going to run the show here?
It's anybody's guess, really. Like, it's
to me, it's silly. I kind of just told this guy, because like he's getting close to going away to college. I kind of just told him, like, man, just remember, it's just a means to an end. You're here to hang out and have fun with your friends one more time because you're at the end of your road. Once you leave Chilliwack, none of this matters. This guy wants to be a dickhead while you guys practice right now. It doesn't matter. He's going to make his bed. You don't have to do anything to him. You don't even have to respond to this guy when he's getting aggressive.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're doing what you're doing because of your own success. He's doing what he's doing. And you'll probably never be on the same field ever again.
100%.
Like, I played with guys that had this same mindset when I was growing up. And that's half the reason why I left too. Like, the toxic mindset, like, you're sitting here trying to get hyped for a game, and these guys on your team are like, why are you doing that? You look stupid. And I'm like, how am I supposed to get dialed in when I'm getting chirped for getting dialed in? Yeah. Like, what? What are you doing? You're standing here just making fun of your own team? Well,
yeah, you're sitting on... well, I guess we didn't have TikTok. Sitting on Insta... I don't even know what the fuck
they were on their phones. We're in the middle of about to start a football game.
Yeah, but they're probably... If they're not getting hyped, what the hell are they doing?
They're just sitting there making fun of people.
I can't even.
Yeah, so like, that's what I mean. I'm like, I couldn't handle it. That's why I was like, yo, I need to get out of here. I went to a different team, and everyone was dialed in, focused, and that's why most of us made it to college.
Yeah. Like, when you went there at first, I was like, who the fuck are they? Then I looked it up, I'm like, oh, the team that has people that go to NFL? Like, the CFL, right? Generally is ran by them?
We have, yeah, there's been a couple guys that have been drafted to the CFL. Yeah, our team is pretty good. The culture is what makes that kind of thing. Guys get drafted because we grew up in this culture where everything is professional to some degree. And when you got guys that are just jackasses, they don't cut it.
Yeah, they don't make it.
Like, it doesn't matter necessarily who's better than the other. Like, kind of like going back to your basketball thing. It's cool that he might be the best player on your team. But if there's three guys that are your core on the court at one time, if those three guys don't have chemistry and can't sync up and be a team, having one guy that's just that's better than everybody, he's not going to be better than the team because he can only have the ball one time. Like, you all have to play.
And I think that's a good transition to talking about the super team discussion that is going on right now.
Shit. Okay, so tell me what you're talking about.
So, obviously, everybody knows the Brooklyn Nets.
Yes.
They had, last year, they signed KD and Kyrie. Both of them were injured, so they all knew it was going to be kind of a write-off year. This year comes in, Kyrie's been having his off-court shit, but Durant's been just a killer all year. Then they pick up James Harden.
Huge trade.
This is where they went from, this is a good team, to, okay, this team might win it. They actually have a chance now against LeBron. That's basically what everybody's been saying for the last 15 years, is you're either good enough to contend, or you might be able to win against LeBron. That's it. But,
side note, I just want to comment on that. That is to speak to the greatness that is LeBron James. I think it was Jimmy Butler said it leading up to the finals last year. It's like, everyone at this point knows if you're going to win an NBA title in this era, you have to be a LeBron James-led basketball team. That's how that works.
It is. And then, look, just to keep going on LeBron, because I can always do this. I might be a little bit of a dick rider. Might be.
Sorry.
But
Sorry, Mom.
This guy, everybody talks about, he was in the East. The East was weak. West was so strong. So he goes to the West. Where does everybody go? They fucking dip. They jump to the East. You can't blame the guy because everybody can't be on the same side. They know if they're in the same division, if they're in the same conference as LeBron James, that means they don't get finals appearances. That's what that means. If you're on the other side, at least you get to lose in the finals, and you don't lose in the conference finals. That's
you
it.
You get to lose in the finals.
That's
cool.
That's what the conversation is always. But back to Brooklyn Nets. So, my thing is with super teams, like, my definition of a super team is somebody that has, it's obviously it comes down to titles. A big part of it is you generally have to have two guys that, like, your top two players are in, like, the top three in that position of all time. Like, not
all time.
Not even
just in the league at the time.
At that time, like, you can kind of do it at that time, but in the end of their career, like, if they're in their prime, that should be their top two, top three in the position.
Okay.
So let's go back to Miami Heat, the big three. Dwayne Wade is top three shooting guard. LeBron is
maybe
the top small forward of all time. Dwayne Wade, I can give him a maybe.
Please see Dustin's top 50 list. It was our first episode, and it is
sus.
It is in concrete. Sus. It is in stone. It is the holy grail of a top 50 list. I don't care what anybody says. That's just how it is. I just was telling you who are the top 50.
You let us know.
It wasn't really an opinion piece.
We're gonna have to redo it at the end of this year because I think Damian Lillard might actually move up on the list, which is surprising.
Dollar Dame, continue.
But anyway, so you got those two, and then a big part of it is generally if there's three, it's one guy that takes a diminished role that comes over. So obviously Chris Bosh takes that spot. But the other part that generally makes a team endearing, like that make them actually a super team that at least those fans enjoy, is having a homegrown star. So you have in Miami, you had Dwayne Wade. He's drafted in there. Now we're gonna jump over to the 99 to 2001 Lakers. They've got Kobe was drafted there, and then they pick up Shaq, and immediately they went from a good team. Like a good team on the rise to championship caliber, and then they obviously go on the three-peat, prove to be the best 1-2 punch. Obviously, Kobe Bryant, top two second best shooting guard ever. Shaq is my favorite player ever, top center of all time. So you have that. There's no third guy, but it's still they just didn't need it. They had the top two players in the league at the same time. Next super team, I'd say, are like for second best super team. I think, in my opinion, are the Bulls when the second three-peat, which is crazy thing to say, the second three-peat. But the first three-peat, obviously, they showed how great they are, and then they went and picked up the best rebounder of all time, Dennis Rodman, and also one of the top defenders of all time. So that's another one where they were good. Obviously, MJ retired, but then they went out to be better. They go out, they get the 72-win season. I think they lost something like 43 games in the 3 years that they got the second three-peat, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, over 3 years.
They have
barely over
Jordan.
10 years.
Jordan, arguably the greatest of all time, very arguably. Scottie Pippen, one of the best defenders of all time, and at the time probably the top five in the league.
Yeah.
And then Dennis Rodman, one of the best defenders of all time, possibly the best rebounder. Now, and obviously they also have Phil Jackson on top, but they were just like the big thing with me for super teams is they're gonna win. It's not a question of do you think they have a chance against this guy? It's always they're gonna win. And it's like, wow, they lost. That's what you look, especially with the Bulls.
Golden State when they lost to LeBron,
which is my number one super team.
Golden State Warriors.
It is okay because they went it's the crazy thing as well. They have their homegrown stars back to the Bulls. Obviously, Jordan, homegrown. He's been there. He goes. He's the reason that they were a super team. If it was the opposite and he went to Scottie Pippen's team, I don't think that it's looked at the same way. But because he was a homegrown guy, that's what happens. Now you go to Golden State. Steph Curry.
Three homegrowns.
Yeah. 3 homegrowns and 1 generational talent. Steph Curry, arguably the best shooter of all time.
They didn't even have him at first. So 3 homegrowns made their own dynasty. Yeah. And then you add that.
Yeah. Well, no, Steph Curry was already there. It was Durant that came over.
I know, that's what I'm saying, but the 3 homegrowns, they were already winning titles.
They had started winning titles. They had won the championship the year... they lost the championship the year before. And then they won 73 games. And then they pick up one of the best scorers of all time. A 7-footer that plays like a point guard and shoots like a shooting guard.
It's pretty gross.
He's like Kevin Durant might go down as the best shooter, best bucket getter of all time. And there's a lot of them, but he might be the best. But this team goes gets the best record ever, 73-9, and then picks that guy up. Now, that almost broke the NBA. Is basically that's what a lot of people looked at it like. Okay, well, there's no possible way for them to lose. Braun said, "Hold my beer." Like, I'm gonna bring Cleveland their first championship. But after that, obviously, they get back-to-back titles the next years. They also could have three-peated. They could have easily three-peated, four-peated, five-peated. They had one of the nastiest squads ever. But Durant leaves there, and now he's trying to create his own big three. The thing with them is they've been together for 9 games. In those 9 games, they have, I think it's a 122.2 offensive efficiency, which would be the best in the league right now and best of all time. But their defense is something like 119, which is the worst in the league and the worst of all time.
As far as like super teams are concerned?
As far as any team. Any efficiency. They have the worst defense and the best offense ever. So this is where they make the interesting part, because most of the time there's one guy that has to take a backseat on a super team. But none of these players are going to take a backseat. They're all iso ball scorers. Like James Harden doesn't, like, he still Pillsbury Doughboy still gets his shots off like crazy.
He can pass too.
He can pass as well. Durant, obviously one of the best scorers. Kyrie Irving, one of the best finishers around the rim, and extremely clutch. All three of them Harden, he's had a lot of playoff woes. He's the only one that hasn't really proved it in the big show. But Kyrie's hit daggers. Durant's hit daggers. These guys are going to change kind of what they are. They have a chance to change what a super team is because of the fact that they're not two-way, but it all comes down to rings.
Quick interjection. If you are Game 7, game on the line, title on the line, who are you making?
Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant's taking the last shot?
Anybody in the entire world. Anybody in the entire world has the ball, Kevin Durant.
MJ. Just saying. Anyways,
continue. MJ, if you're down by 2 or down by 1, if you're down by 3 and you need the tie, Kevin Durant.
Steph Curry.
Kevin Durant. Steph Curry's a foot shorter. They shoot almost the same. He's not impossible. Kevin Durant's impossible. It doesn't matter. Steph Curry and Kevin Durant are the two of the best shooters of all time. Okay. You can take either one, but Kevin Durant, no matter what, against anybody for the last shot.
Now I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Now, these super teams, do they have to win a title to still be a super team?
Yes. So otherwise, you're a really good team.
You're just a really good team. You're not a super team.
No. If you have because generally in the NBA, like in the past, there was like the 7-9 year contracts, but since the last 2 CBA agreements back, it's 4. You have 4-year deals, and then if you've been on the same team for 4 years, you get the bird. Or I think for 2 years before you sign, you get the bird rights, so you could sign them to a 5-year deal. So generally, a super team, like as of right now, is that you have a 4-year window of where you're going to keep these guys, and then odds are they're going to want more money, and you're not going to be able to keep them all together. There's going to be somebody's going to ask for more, and the teams generally break up. But if you assemble a big three like this, or like for Los Angeles Clippers, they bring in Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. They're supposed to be those guys, and they don't make it. They can't be called a super team until they make it. The big three with LeBron and Wade, after they lost to Dallas, everybody's like, okay, so these guys aren't who we thought they were. Clearly, the next 2 years, they proved who they were. They changed the game of basketball with positionless basketball. Anyways, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, if they don't win a ring in the next year, if they don't win a ring this year, they aren't a super team. They can't be considered a super team anymore.
They're just another good team.
They're another team that was around.
Yeah.
They're not going to go down in anybody's memory. Nobody's going to know them.
They didn't win anything.
They're not going to be in any conversation like this, because at the end of the day, you have to at least win a ring. It's okay to lose, but you need to at least win one. That's a starting point. I'd say multiple, but a starting point is one. And that's where it's going to be big with Brooklyn. If Brooklyn, like, that's the thing as well, is the fact that they're in the East. So you have the chance every year. They have a chance to make it to the finals still. So they could have they could go 0-4 in the finals against LeBron. They have the chance. But obviously if they're in the East, it's a lot harder. Or in the West, it's a lot harder.
Yeah, but these guys in the East, they're fighting the Bucks. I think the 76ers look kind of dookie lately.
They've started to show out again.
Okay.
But
so maybe come the end of the year, maybe they're still putting in work to be up there. But Miami's looking kind of sus. Do you think they're going to make it back to the finals? They look kind of sus.
They're a fun team to root for.
I was stoked they made it, but don't expect it to ever happen again.
They're the definition of a Cinderella story. Yeah. They're like, if a movie was scripted after them, they're always going to be the team that fights, claws, makes it there, and then loses. In a heartbreaking fashion. It's always going to be, because that's the style of team they are. And that's the thing, is almost every team in the East right now is built up of one dominating figure and then another clear Robin to the Batman.
Yeah, clear second player.
Whereas like super teams, and like potentially LeBron might be part of another super team coming up because of the fact of him and Anthony Davis are two of the best players in the NBA at the same time. Anthony Davis has a chance of being one of the best big men ever because of the fact that he plays a complete different style than anybody did back then. But everybody in the East, other than Brooklyn, has one Batman and then a bunch of Robins at best. Like,
you got three alpha dogs in Brooklyn.
Milwaukee has Giannis, and then they have Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, just whoever.
Yeah.
Guys that names and faces. You wouldn't recognize who they were.
Even Boston's in the East, right?
Yeah.
They've got Tatum.
They got Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Neither of those guys have actually done anything. Yeah. They aren't the guys that you look at like, okay, clearly this guy's a championship level guy. They're good. They have a chance to be, but they haven't proven shit.
Right. And like, if Tatum's your alpha there's no way there's two alphas there.
Like, yeah.
So you have a questionable alpha, and then you have the others.
Yeah. So that's the thing. They're definitely the team of the East that's probably going to come out of it. But as far as super team, they're going to defy all the odds if they get it. If they win a bunch of championships, they're going to be the first super team to do it their way. Because every other team has been great on both sides of the ball and have generational talents, like not even generational talents, but it's generally there's two guys and a third. It's going to be all three at all times. There's never going to be a time where one of them is just the Chris Bosh of the team.
So there's never been any team that's like been like at defense, but just like outscored the offense, or like no. What about even like the other way around? Say they're like lockdown defense, but they had like no offensive threats.
The closest would be, and like I didn't grade any of the old teams because I don't care that much. But the best history lesson. The best super team in that retrospect that also breaks the molds would be the Bad Boy Pistons. They obviously had Isaiah Thomas, Dennis Rodman, and they had a solid team, but it wasn't like these are known as the top players of their positions at the time. But they won multiple championships off of defense. Yeah. Albeit it was like 80s, 90s defense where you didn't actually play defense, you just hit guys a lot, and the refs didn't call anything.
Dustin defense. Throwback.
Yeah, Dustin defense.
Throwback to last week. Anyways.
Pretty much. But so what the question I want to do, because I obviously understand basketball and I have my own criteria for what I think of super teams there, but I wanted to ask you about super teams for football, for NFL, because like I've heard of, like obviously your Baltimore Ravens with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, they had a super defense, but I don't know if that makes them a super team or if that just like, because obviously defense and offense are a lot different in football because they're complete different personnel.
So I think as far as the criteria, there's a few things you got to consider. One, you're saying basketball, you kind of keep throwing around the number of like having like three good players. In basketball, three good players on the court means 60% of your starters.
Three great players.
60% of your starters are great. That's a tough build to ask for an NFL team where you got 11 on one side, 11 on the other. You got 22 players. If you're getting 60%, now you're looking at like at least 12 to 13 great players, never a thing.
Yeah.
Now we could go, I think it'd be more reasonable, like looking back on like old good teams, like you think of like the greatest teams ever. You might have, I think, 13 players between offense and defense on some of those teams that maybe not that year, most definitely not that year, but over the course of their career played at a Pro Bowl level, at least at one point. Usually. Like that'll be like that. That's probably an average, a safe average. If you think about like these great teams, 13 players had at least one Pro Bowl to their name in their career.
Yeah.
That's safe. But just for reference, this recent Kansas City team, is it a super team? People talk like that. They say it is. They only had 8 players on that team that have like even one Pro Bowl to their name. And like I say, not just the year. One of those guys I'm counting is LaShawn McCoy, who hasn't been nice since Philly. And that's
hasn't
like
been nice since I used to know football.
yeah, so like he hasn't been nice in a minute, and he's the 8th guy on that team with a Pro Bowl. The rest, like that's how little there are on that roster.
So from outside, just to put what I see as a super team, like because I don't know the in depth enough, but if I were to look at a football team, I would think they have a potential Hall of Fame quarterback, a Pro Bowl receiver, Pro Bowl running back, and three known great like Pro Bowl defenders. That's what my criteria would be. Is you have to always have that 1-2 punch, the run, and then 3 guys on defense.
So that would be a damn good team. I can tell you that for free. That would be really nice.
And that's what I'm saying. That's
so
because everybody else, because you can make other players work, but you kind of have to have those as your keys, in my opinion.
So
from what I know.
So kind of continuing with what I was saying, if you now think about teams that, like you saying, you know, Boston's got hella offense. Sorry, Brooklyn's got hella offense, but no defense.
Yeah.
In football, hella offense can take you so far, and it can win you a championship. I would say the first team that comes to mind when I think about that is the greatest show on turf. That was the Rams in the early 2000s. They have future Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner, like you said. Future Hall of Fame running back Marshall Faulk. And then 2... I don't know if they're both in the Hall of Fame yet, but they're definitely Hall of Fame caliber players. Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt at both wide receivers. So they're like bang, 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 bang. They're nice. And they had, I think Orlando Pace was on the line at the time. He's a Hall of Famer too. So they've got ballers.
Yeah.
And they're called the greatest show on turf for a reason. They were like no other in their era.
Yeah.
There's no, like, this offense was unstoppable.
That's one thing with two Hall of Fame wide receivers is that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Now, they might have had a couple Pro Bowlers on the defense, but to be honest, defense kind of sus, not really relevant. There's literally no one that gets talked about from that defense. And I have a couple guys in my head that I'm like, I think they played for the Rams back in the day, but they're so irrelevant that they're not tied to this team. When you think of this team, you think of just those players.
Okay.
They were able to win a championship. There's not very many examples of being just loaded on one side and a sus on the other and it working out. Usually you got to have a decent balance. But then on the other side, I think there's more examples of like a great defense, sus offense, and they pull it off. Like you mentioned, the Ravens. Ravens were nice on the defense. The offense sucked ass. I think they might have like the worst Super Bowl winning quarterback in the history of the Super Bowl in Trent Dilfer. Ass. I think he's also the only Super Bowl winning quarterback to ever get cut the next year. So he won the Super Bowl, and they're like, nah.
And then wasn't Joe Flacco like? Isn't he kind of like? Then he won, and then the next year became like the most overpaid quarterback in the NFL.
He wins, yeah. He gets like a fat contract. He sucks ass for like a couple more years, and they draft Lamar Jackson, and then he looks even worse. And then they send him to, I think he went to the New York Jets first, or he went to the Denver Broncos. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's all I've known about Baltimore.
As far as I'm concerned, he's dead already.
They played defense, and then whatever. I don't even know what happened on offense. Nobody knows.
The offense is now in both teams, like their first Super Bowl and their second Super Bowl, even the second Super Bowl offense. They had at the time Flacco was playing at a Pro Bowl level. He was playing good. The running back was also playing at a Pro Bowl level.
Yeah, I think Ray Rice was the only one that was beating anybody.
Yeah, but Ray Rice also beat his girl, and now he's not in the league.
That's who he was beating.
Anyways, but like really, there's nobody. I guess like the Ravens team, the first one, they did have a Hall of Famer on offense, but he was their left tackle, Jonathan Ogden. Other than that, everyone else is sus.
Yeah.
Well, they did have a late Shannon Sharp too, so that's another Hall of Famer. So I guess we'll give them 2 Hall of Famers on offense. So they did have a decent offensive set. They were solid, but
mostly
pretty suspect.
It was a top defense with a middle of pack offense at best.
I love hearing interviews of Shannon Sharp talking about that team, because Shannon Sharp, for those that don't know, this guy likes to talk. And that's why I love him so much, because he's my dude. But one thing he talks about, he's like, when certain players in the NFL are talking shit, they got to put up. For him, he felt so comfortable talking shit because he really didn't have to do that much. Because he knows that his defense was so good, you're lucky if you get 7.
Yeah.
So he knows he just needs to get 8 and he wins. So as long as he can get 1 and a little more, he's going to win. And that's not a big...
I need 2 plays.
Yeah.
You need to be perfect.
Yeah. That defense will probably get 1 on their own, so he probably just needs to get 1.
Yeah,
and if that's all he has to get to win, they had one of the lowest, how much was it, average points against? They had one of the lowest averages ever. They were so good. Now, the other thing too I was going to think about is when I think of super teams, outside of all this little criteria thing, I think of a team that was good, and then they added a piece that was just put them over the top. That was just the cherry on the cake.
Yeah.
Now there's a few examples of that, but there's some examples that still didn't win. Now that goes to the point I was going to make earlier is in the NFL, you have a single round knockout, which means you could be the best team ever. And if you fuck up even on one day, it doesn't matter. You lose.
Yeah.
Whereas in basketball, it's pretty low percentages to say you could fuck up 3 times and pull it off. But you can still fuck up at least 2 nights out of that run.
Yeah.
And still, because you're the better team will rise to the top because they have a best of 7.
Yeah.
Same with hockey in that regard. In football, that's not a thing. If you fuck up on the one day, say you got hurt, say you just rolled your ankle and it will be good tomorrow, but today it's not good and you can't perform right now, it's over. And in that prime example of what I'm talking about is when you have the New England Patriots in the peak of their dynasty, add, in my opinion, the greatest receiver of all time, Randy Moss, who had played like Dukes for a little bit in Oakland after he left Minnesota.
Yeah.
Comes to New England to play with Tom fucking Brady.
Yeah. And
breaks a bunch of receiver records. I think he scored the most touchdowns any receiver ever scored. And I think they threw 50 touchdowns that year. That's God tier connections. But they lost in the finals. Because at the end of the day, if Tom Brady, he's throwing, I don't know how many yards he threw. He probably threw 500 yards. I don't know. But I don't remember exactly how it went down. But if your defense lets you down, they only need to fuck up one play to lose the game. And you get one chance and that's it. It's over. And that team won every single game up until that point. Smoked every team in the playoffs. They get to the finals. And they lost to Eli Manning? That's real tough.
They're a superb team. Not a super team, I guess.
Were they a super team? I don't know.
That's where my thing always falls back on, that I don't know how to rate football teams because they don't win that much. Most football teams don't win. And that's the thing that's crazy. The best team doesn't generally win. And they don't always win. The hard, such a weird thing to grasp out of that sport.
That's why they always say it's any given Sunday. Any team can win. It doesn't. You never know until the day of, because any team could be all of the things. They could be everything, and it could be nothing. It could be absolutely nothing.
Just weren't good enough,
right? You think of Tom Brady's most recent Super Bowl when he beat the Rams. Man, the Rams were nice. Jared Goff's playing out of his mind. They've got receivers. They've got Pro Bowl Todd Gurley. But Gurley was hurt for that game, so he didn't get to play as much. They've got unreal defense. Defense didn't really do much either. They didn't play bad. I think they only gave up 13 points. But offense got 3, so
yeah.
does it matter? Not really.
and then against Seattle throws a pick at the 1 yard line instead of running it in with a guy that falls on 2 yards.
Right? Like,
but yeah,
you could be all in it, and I think that's the thing with football. Well, I guess that's the thing with all sports like that. You know, maybe not hockey. Hockey's kind of like you never know when something's going to happen. It could be any moment. It could be never. But I think with basketball, there's this constant rate of scoring, so that in the same way with football, the game will play. There's going to be ebbs and flows. It comes down to the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
At the fourth quarter, what's the difference? How many points is it? Is it 1 score? Is it 2 scores? Do you change leads in those last couple minutes? And when you get down to the final buzzer, who gets the last shot? Because in football, if you got the last shot, you know how to set it up so that you can make that game-winning kick and steal that game.
Yeah, you can see how many minutes are left on the board and use every second you can possibly take.
Exactly. Use every second, set yourself up for the field goal, win the game. Yeah. Tom Brady's made a career off it. Like, that's half of their dynasty in the early 2000s, is game-winning field goals by Adam Vinatieri. He doesn't do shit the whole game, but Tom Brady set him up just perfectly, hits the kick, Tom Brady's a GOAT. Despite him not actually hitting the kick. But you got MJ... Keep the game in reach the whole time, keep a lead, whatever the case may be. Come down to the final shot. Kobe, LeBron, Jordan, what do? Bang, game. Yeah. That's it. Wrap it up. You wait to the last moment, you set it up, you ISO, boom, daggers. They do that their whole lives, their whole career. There's countless highlights of watching these guys hit daggers, and it never gets old.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I kind of say hockey's kind of an exception because that puck's just fucking bouncing around and you never know when someone's going to push it in the net.
Yeah, it could be a 0-0 game. It could be 5-5. Right? If you're down 1, you pull your goalie and they score twice. It's like, you haven't scored all game. This isn't going to happen again.
Right? Like, hockey.
There's no comeback. Like, hockey's just you score once or you don't. That's it.
Yeah. Hockey, it's a little different. But... So it's just with football, I think the thing is too is because if I was going to talk about teams that added a big piece or something, I could think of, the Green Bay Packers at one point with early Brett Favre. They end up signing Reggie White off free agency. One of the biggest free agency signings ever. He's probably the best defensive lineman to ever play football. Honestly, I think Aaron Donald's getting himself in that conversation, but until Aaron Donald, it's been Reggie White, and it's been undisputed. Reggie White signing with Green Bay, what happens? They win the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. You have the Cowboys in the 70s. They were a good team. They were competing, and then they get a draft pick, and they draft Tony Dorsett, who's a future Hall of Fame running back. Well, you take a damn good team, and you add a future Hall of Fame running back in the draft, and all of a sudden they win the Super Bowl too. That one piece, just like in basketball.
It doesn't matter where we are. I cannot listen to anybody talk about the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, we'll stop.
Fuck the Cowboys. They were 50 years ago. But you said something interesting that I kind of wanted to switch it up a little bit. Still super teams. But when you said Aaron Donald. So when you look at that LA Rams team, obviously, that they made the big trade. They decide they're going to go all in. They want Matt Stafford. They think he's going to be the guy. Mm-hmm. So now you're looking at, you have Aaron Donald, who, generational talent, could be one of the best linemen ever, paired up with Jalen Ramsey. Now that they've got that 1-2 punch that I was talking about on defense, and then Matthew Stafford, who has been in Detroit, so who knows if he's good or not. But like clearly,
he's definitely an upgrade.
He's shown he could be. If you put players around him that can actually play ball, he could be a great quarterback. So now you have him. Do you think they're at a point of they might be that next super team? Like they might be an acquisition or two away from being that team?
I think they're really close. I think they're really close because their defense has been so good. It's been so good, and if it can stay healthy, it's a good defense. It's going to hold you back. Like, you're not going to put up a lot of points on them. Mm-hmm. The offense has been what's been letting them down.
Yeah.
They have no one at running back. I know you can say, oh, they have Cam Akers. Who the fuck is Cam Akers? No one cares about Cam Akers.
Yeah.
Jared Goff has been mediocre at best at quarterback, thus why they were so eager to get rid of him. Matt Stafford is an upgrade. He's got a couple questions, But, even the respect he's generated from his peers, like, you hear interviews of, Aaron Rodgers talking about him, he's like, yo, this guy in Detroit's been pretty good. No one really talks about him.
He's been doing, like, because he was talking about the no-look passes.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's been doing this for years. Patrick Mahomes is way shinier with it, but he's been in Detroit. You can't, nobody's watching.
And that's the thing. Stafford's been the guy. At times, he's had good pieces around him. Like, obviously, he threw to Megatron for a couple years at least. But, what are they doing in Detroit? They've been doing fucking nothing in Detroit. Detroit sucks.
They're so bad that people think that the Browns suck, the Bengals suck, but they don't even mention Detroit as a team that's even in the NFL. They happen to be on the sideline.
I think they're the Detroiters. They've got, like, their big Hall of Famers. Like, they have Barry Sanders and they have Calvin Johnson.
That's it. No, like, and even that, I didn't even know where Calvin Johnson played. I knew his name, I knew all that, but, like, Detroit, like, he didn't do it, like, and that's the thing that, like, for me, it takes, at the time, as a very casual football fan, I didn't give a shit about him because he didn't do anything. Like, he put up yards, but it's kind of like being on, in the NBA. You're putting up 30 points per game and you've lost 56 games in the year. You put on, they're empty stats. You're the only person there that can play.
See, and I think that goes into this the discussion that another reason why NFL is different. I heard this question on, I think it was, I don't know which sports show. I watch a lot of sports shows. First Take, Undisputed, I don't know which one it was. But they were talking about, like, who would you rather build a franchise around? Like, if you got to draft one player of all time, who would you draft? Now, obviously the answer is a quarterback.
Yeah.
But they're thinking, okay, well, would you draft Trevor Lawrence or would you draft Devonta Smith? He won the Heisman. Well, you're going to draft the quarterback. Because drafting a receiver, you can't build a receiver. A good receiver by himself can't do anything. Because there's so many things that have to happen before the ball gets the receiver. The blocking has to be there. The quarterback has to make the right reads. And, then the receiver has to beat the coverage.
Yeah.
Then the quarterback has to be able to get the ball to the receiver. There's got to be...
And realistically, at best, you get 10 receptions a game.
That's a good game.
Maybe 12. Like, and how many downs are there? Like,
yeah,
you can't
play 50 downs easy.
You can't build a team around a guy that's part-time with the ball.
Exactly. The quarterback touches the ball every play.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and you think of, like, Calvin Johnson. He could be the, top 5 greatest receivers all time. But what did he do? Other than he got stats. Yeah, he got stats. But he did fucking nothing otherwise. They still were asked the whole time he was there because he's just the receiver. He doesn't do anything else.
All he can do is get stats.
Exactly.
Everybody else.
He doesn't defend.
Yeah.
It's football. Like, offensive guys don't play defense, so what does it matter? You need guys on both sides. So, you think of, like, even like Julio Jones. Julio Jones is, I think he's the best receiver in the league. Maybe I'd give Devontae Adams this year. I think Devontae Adams was the best receiver this year, but I would say, cumulatively, the best receiver in football, you're going to pick Julio Jones.
Yeah.
And Julio Jones did a whole lot of fucking nothing this year. Why? Because their team sucked dick.
Yeah.
And Calvin Ridley was getting, everyone covers up on Julio. Calvin Ridley gets suspect coverage. So they just start throwing the ball to Calvin Ridley. He got all the yards. He got all the stats. Julio was just there.
Yeah.
Some days he had a good game. Some days he didn't. And it is what it is.
It's just empty stats.
Right? Now, going back to the super team thing, yeah, you could think of other examples. Another good example is there's a guy named Charles Haley. He was a defensive end, Hall of Fame defensive end. He bounces from, winning a Super Bowl in San Francisco, bounces over the Dallas Cowboys, wins a Super Bowl there. He tightened up their defense, and boom, they win. You can also think of Deion Sanders. He bounced from Atlanta to Dallas to 49ers. Like, he bounced all over the place. He's got Super Bowls on different teams. Like, that's just, you take those pieces that, like, he's a Hall of Famer, and you just start bouncing him to one team, he wins there. Take him, throw him on a different team. Now they win. Like, things like that. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I guess that'd be that's probably the biggest difference between football. I guess there's not really super teams. There's super players. There are players that define the team, and it's the rest of the team. It doesn't, like, you can't correlate team success to any single player, and you can't relegate that player's success to what his team has done. So I think that's the difference. There isn't really super teams as much as there are great players on teams, just on any given team.
Yeah, and you know, I have one more example to get to, case study to get to, but kind of going off that point, because of the single round knockout format, a lot of the time these guys that are Pro Bowlers, they're only a Pro Bowler in their career one time, and it's the year that their team went off. They all go off, they all get recognized as being great, and then what happens next year? Next year it doesn't happen. Now you could think of even like trios, like, you know, the most famous trio of all time is, sorry to bring it up again, Dallas Cowboys, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, all Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
They're, you know, they were a dynasty for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
They have, I think, another Hall of Famer, a right guard there, in Larry Allen. They've got some Hall of Famers on defense, too, in there, like Charles Haley. Deion Sanders was there. There's a couple others I can't think of, but, you know, you need a couple on both sides. There was one example I found in some research that I thought was interesting is most of the teams, like I said, around like 13 is like 13 to 10. That's like a good team.
Yeah.
Kansas City was our reference point. They just won. They had 8. The 1994 San Francisco 49ers. They got Jerry Rice and company on one side. They've got, you know, pretty solid defense on the other. I think it's like Ronnie Lott, Deion Sanders are over there. This team had 20 players in their starting lineup that had hit the Pro Bowl at one point in their career.
Jesus.
That's disgusting. That is the biggest number that I was able to find in my research. So out of the 22 starters, only 2 of them never made a Pro Bowl. And the rookie they drafted that year, first overall, was one of those future Pro Bowlers. So he was a Pro Bowl player. He was the defensive rookie of the year. Brian Young, he's a beast. And he was just like, they draft a rookie right into the lineup.
That's basically, that's the NBA equivalent of having your starting 5 hit the Hall of Fame and your 6th man. Yeah. Pretty much. Like, you've got everybody.
Like, every single position, that person was successful, and the way that team had been assembled, they all came together at the right time, and they just locked up. And, like, to me, like, that's a super team. That many all-stars, or all-star caliber people that have the ability to be an all-star in the league, that many people in one team, that's insane.
Yeah, I guess it pretty much is. Like, to really have a super team, it is still, the NBA is 60%. Football might even be 60% that you have to be to get to that actual super team level.
But, I mean, you know, I'm going to, you know, say something here that kind of goes against that, though. We talk about those homegrown teams. You can talk about certain dynasties. There's 2 different ways this can go. You can talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers of the 70s, where at one point they've got like 8 Hall of Famers on their team. They drafted, I think, like 5 Hall of Famers in one draft or something stupid like that. Like, they're disgusting.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about greatest teams of all time, yeah, there's some 70s Steelers teams that are up there because they had Hall of Famers across the board. D-line, linebackers, DBs, receivers, quarterback, running back. Like, they had it everywhere. Even linemen. One of the greatest centers of all time. Like, they had it everywhere. Gross team. But then you have a modern dynasty, like the 2000s New England Patriots. They won 3 titles in 4 years. How many Hall of Famers are on that team? This is before Gronk. Yeah. Gronk didn't even get there yet, so we're not going to talk about Gronk. On that team, you had Tom Brady. They added, in 2004, I think is their like best year, they added a Pro Bowl running back, and I think that's the best out of this dynasty team, but he's just a Pro Bowler. He's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
They have Ty Law playing corner. He's a Hall of Famer. After that, nothing. They have most of these guys barely made a single Pro Bowl in their life. Most of them, the only accolade they have is 3 Super Bowls because they played with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Now you have a team. Now you could call this team, this is a homegrown team. They're not flashy. They're not the best. They've got some Pro Bowlers here and there, but their success, you could really chalk it up to they have the greatest coach of all time and the greatest quarterback of all time, And that combination alone was able to take this pretty solid team. Like, they were stacked across the board as far as, like, they were playing well that year.
Yeah.
They played great over these years, but they're not big-name players that went anywhere else and played well. And they're not even big-name players that they got recognized as the best at their position. That was never the case, really. But they played well in those moments, and they pulled it off.
I think that is the thing about New England Patriots. Their dynasty, well, that dynasty, the next dynasty, all with Tom Brady. Obviously, there's one guy that's kind of there. You can say Bill Belichick was on the sideline as well, but Tom Brady was there. But they're the exception to all the rules because most franchises don't win back-to-back championships. Like you said, you could be the best team in the league and not win. They were winning over and over. He gets 6 rings with them. He gets it, and they get it.
Mm-hmm.
I think isn't that the most for any franchise and any player? That's a complete. They're the exception to all the rules. Having Pro Bowlers, having Hall of Famers, having this, having that. They're exception to every rule. So that's the one team where it's kind of like you can chalk it up as anything. Like they have. What's his name? Edelman, as their
Julian Edelman,
their top guy,
top receiver for a better part of a decade. And is he a Hall of Famer? You know, he could be just for the 3-time champion, a Super Bowl MVP trophy, but he's never been a Pro Bowl. I think he got maybe a couple Pro Bowls, but like let's call it like 2.
Yeah, he might have a slightly more popular podcast than us. That's the level of guy he was. It's not like he wasn't Antonio Brown. He wasn't Calvin Johnson, anything like that.
Yeah, no.
Whereas he's
not even Wes Welker.
Yeah.
Wes Welker was the white boy before him.
Well, yeah, then KC has that new guy, Miller or whatever, right?
Tampa has Miller.
Yeah, Tampa. That's what I meant.
Tom always has that token, quick little white boy in the slot that can cook. Tom always finds his little white boy.
Gets that guy right before the end of half.
Right? Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman, Scotty.
But that's the thing about it is that it's kind of an exception. As it's the weirdest thing to say, but you almost can't count anything that Tom Brady in New England has done as you can't put it into any other category. They're the only people that have ever done it. Right. They're not a super team. They're the best dynasty there's ever been. Now, they're the best dynasty in football.
But now Tom Brady leaves, and he goes to Tampa Bay, where they're already stacked with Pro Bowlers. Are they a super team? Because then they add Gronk, who's a future Hall of Famer. Then they add Leonard Fournette, a Pro Bowler, led the NFL in rushing once, I think. And then you add Antonio Brown, who's probably a Hall of Famer, especially during, maybe not first ballot, but down the line, he'll probably get in.
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer. This guy had 7,000-yard seasons to start his career.
Don't they have Kenny Clark? Or isn't he on the D-line? I don't know, guys enough to really name.
But they have a couple guys like Ndamukong Suh's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. He's on the D-line.
But that's the thing is that is a team that makes sense to be where they are. They make the big addition of Tom, get a couple more guys. That's a super team because they're built specifically to win now.
Right?
They aren't like we're gonna see what we got here. Let's go a couple weeks and then maybe we might have to make trades. They're built to win now. That's a super team.
Yeah.
Whereas everything with New England Patriots was just like, well, we got Tom,
and Gronk.
We'll just see. We'll see what happens. We'll put out anybody. We'll just
defenses usually have one good corner. That's the thing with them. They
still Gilmore.
Yeah, they still on Gilmore. Then before that, I think they won a Super Bowl with Darrell Revis, who's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
he played
Island.
He played 1 year in New England, showed up, won a Super Bowl, and that was it.
It wasn't his best year either.
But he won a Super Bowl and a Pro Bowl, so it worked out. And then I think before that, either Asante Samuel, and then before that, I think there was a bit of a gap, and then they had Ty Law. So they've always had at least one nice corner.
Yeah, but that's the thing that just
there's
the dynasty's different.
There's one team though that I think is really funny, and that's the '85 Bears. Now they're known for having one of, if not the greatest defense of all time. That's always up for discussion. They got Hall of Famers, all over the place on defense. They have Hall of Famers on offense, too. But what I think is amazing about this team is, I think it was a couple weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, they made a music video with the team where they made a song basically talking about we're going to win the Super Bowl. And then they go and win the Super Bowl. Think of the balls.
This team. You're making a black and white on a camcorder.
It wasn't black and white. It was like the 80s.
Know what they did in the 80s.
It was the 80s. It was like a Prince music video or something. But they got all these guys on the stage like, and like, they're like, we're gonna win. They won.
Yeah, that's calling your shot.
I think it's awesome. But yeah, it's kind of hard to nail down what a Super Bowl or what a super team is, because I feel like there's so many examples of it working out in some cases and not working out in others. And I think the only real scenario that is consistent but very rare and almost negates calling any current team a Super Bowl or a super team is like having Hall of Famers on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And like you can really only like put that up like, you know, a couple, you know, between San Francisco, Dallas, Pittsburgh, and who was the other one I was just thinking of? Can't remember.
You said the Bears a minute ago. 85.
Yeah, Bears. There was one other I was thinking of, Oakland. Between like those kind of teams that had like Hall of Famers on offense and Hall of Famers on defense, there's not really many super teams out there. Because like there's just been too many teams that have failed. Like even the Minnesota Vikings when Randy Moss showed up, they have like, you know, Randall Cunningham at quarterback, Hall of Fame receiver here, Hall of Fame receiver there, solid defense. Don't make it.
Yeah.
And they just fuck it up. Somewhere down the line, they shit the bed. Yeah, the Broncos, you know, John Elway's last year with the Broncos in 1998, they ended up the stars aligned. Everybody played well. People that aren't normally the best played out of their mind in 1 year. Elway, you know, they just came off a Super Bowl win, and then they go into the next year and they just have an unreal season. Their running back runs for 2,000 yards, which has only happened like 5 times ever or something like that. Both receivers got 1,000-yard seasons, which is also insane. And their defense is nice. Like, that's a hell of a... They went off that year.
Yeah.
So, there's sometimes they just go off, and then sometimes you have Tom Brady and Randy Moss go off, and they shit the bed.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Without a series, just playing one game, anything can happen. These super teams don't get to rack up titles. If they do rack up titles in football, it's very special. And that's why Tom Brady is so special, because it's just not that easy. And to think that he's only won 6, he probably could easily have like 7 or 8. Like,
yeah. Well, that's the thing that he could have. There's at least 3 that he should have lost, and he was able to make it work. Like
all the field goals.
Atlanta. Obviously,
the Atlanta one's tough.
Seattle making the throw, but he lost to New York Giants to a crazy, unbelievable play where you can't.
Yeah. That's the thing with football. You take who takes the last shot, because whoever takes the last shot, that doesn't mean the other side's going to get a shot anymore. They've put in their work. Now it's up to you to either make the game or lose the game. And in some cases, Tom Brady's been on the side of it worked out for them. Yeah. In some cases, he's been on the side where it didn't work out. But I
think that's the big one with him is getting to the dance. That's where, like, for me, football-wise, that's why I have LeBron at top for me, is that he's always there. It doesn't matter who's on the team. It doesn't matter who's on the other team. He's always going to be at the end. He's going to be the one that decides who wins. It's either going to be him or the other team. So that's the same thing with Tom Brady. He's lost in the finals. I'd rather a loss in the finals than a loss any time before that.
Right? I think we'll end it pretty quick here with my last shout-out to one of my favorite teams, the 86 Giants. That's the team that had Lawrence Taylor on it. Now, they were nasty. I think Hall of Fame quarterback. I don't think they had anybody else on offense. And then they have defense like Lawrence Taylor. But I don't think there's really any Hall of Famers on the rest of their defense either. They had some Pro Bowlers here and there on both sides, but like it's pretty much it. I think it's just Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, I'm pretty sure they shut out the team in the divisional round. They shut out the team in the conference finals, and then they whooped some ass in the Super Bowl. Like, it wasn't. They just walked through the playoffs. Yeah. Like, to me, it's like that's a team that's like, oh shit, like they were for real. But they only won one. That 1 year they go off in the playoffs. They win the Super Bowl. They never won again.
Yeah. Couple years back, me and Brittany were at this pizza place, and they had a thing on him, And I completely ignored Brittany for like an hour because I was just watching this shit like, who is this guy? Like, I've heard of him through you, but I didn't really know. Yeah, it was just, the way that they described him, it's like, the things he was doing didn't make sense. He was just, okay, go get the quarterback. There's no real rules of what you need to do it. Just figure it out, and he just did.
Yeah, I think my favorite Lawrence Taylor talking point is they always say that Lawrence Taylor revolutionized football because you needed to have, as soon as he came in the league, you needed to have a left tackle that was good on your team or you could never win anymore because he would rush that side, and if you couldn't slow him down, which even with these good left tackles, you still really can't block him. You need like 3 guys to block him.
At best, you're slowing him down. That's it.
Like he's going to get there. If you can't deal with him, you can't win because you're going to snap the ball and he's going to run straight past an average player and he's going to go right through them like he's a ghost. And he's going to light your ass up, and he's not just going to ruin the play, he could potentially ruin your players' careers, as he did in Washington when he took Joe Theismann down and broke his fucking leg. Because you think the video you can find all over YouTube because it's a historical play, but his leg snaps and it's disgusting. And it's like, it's not just the matter of taking hits and like, we lost that down. Every hit you take is damage. It's physical damage to you, and there's always the chance of injury. And when you keep getting bodied by guys as vicious as people like Lawrence Taylor,
vicious as linemen in the NFL.
Yeah, like when you take shots like this, you have the chance to lose like time in your career. That amount of time you can play goes down after every big hit you take because your body is taking this damage. It's so before he was in the league, it was not like the biggest deal, but after that, these guys are getting paid good money because you fucking need them. Because if you can't deal with him, you can't play against them.
Isn't the left tackle like the second highest paid player?
It's up there.
Yeah, it's up there. It's one of the highest paid on every team.
Blind side of the quarterback? That's because of Lawrence Taylor.
Right hand quarterback, yeah.
Yeah, so pretty, that's why I wore 56 in high school, because he's the man.
Yeah.
He's so gross. I could go fucking, dick ride him too all night. I love these guys. But we've been talking for quite a while, so we're going to wrap it up for tonight.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I didn't really say much, but it was really entertaining just being able to listen to what you had about football, because I don't have that past of it. I don't fully understand the strategy of football yet. But the more I hear it, the more it kind of starts to make sense. It's like the high-impact chess.
I have spent so much time watching old highlights of football players. If you think of, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the NFL did the NFL 100 greatest players of all time.
I've watched it with you a couple times back in middle school.
That's something else.
Oh, okay.
This one
just
NFL
came out. Network.
this one just came out maybe 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
The NFL did this big thing, NFL 100, team, and they sat down and they're like, these are the 100 greatest players to ever play football, and they really made a big deal about it. They're going through all 100 players and showing their tape, talking about them, people that have played with them, played against them, testimonials, stuff like that, and showing the film. I've seen probably countless hours of film on every player they show because I've been watching this stuff since I was a kid. Long, I spent so much of my childhood. I remember one of the first computers I ever had. This was to not post on any website, to not really show anybody because no one would ever see this. I had a folder on my computer of my favorite football players and the players that I thought were the greatest of all time. And when I found a player that I thought was amazing, it was a Hall of Famer, I took my favorite picture of him and I put it in a folder, and it was just on my computer. For what? Just because I was fucking obsessed with football.
Yeah.
The amount of hours I put into watching just film to be look how good he was. Oh my God, can you believe he did this? I guess it's every sport has their athletes revolutionize the game at one point or another because if they're just oh my God, how is anybody ever going to be this athletic? And then 10 years later,
every generation.
Oh my God, there's this guy, he's so athletic. Football, it's crazy because at the end of the day, it's still you versus the other man. You have to run over there and run through this man at some point, or run past them, dance around them. There's always some aspect of me versus you in a physical battle, and to see these people just dominate them in whatever capacity it is, it's just terrifying to think like. It's the 60s, but it's Jim Brown, and you're seeing him just run over 4 dudes, and you're like, that's 4 fully grown men that tried to run into him, and he just pushed them to the floor and ran past them?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
All they do is hit this guy, and that's their entire job, and they just got ragdolled.
I love it. Yeah, I've seen so much of it. You definitely should, if you want to see what's going, like, what, history... That's the history lesson I would send you to watch is NFL 100 team. It's pretty cool.
NFL 100 team.
But we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks for sticking around, all you people that
all you football heads.
All you football heads that sat there and listened to me.
Everybody else is gone, but it's okay.
Yeah, everybody else tuned out like at least 40 minutes ago based off this clock. So, anyways, thanks for sticking around. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.